The audition. A story of talent, pride, and a daughter's dream. The auditorium buzzed with restless chatter and muffled laughter. Seniors whispered jokes. Teachers leaned over to exchange amused glances, and a few students snuck glances at their phones. It was the school talent show, a yearly event that was never really about talent, but more about popularity and showing off. At the side of the stage, 17-year-old Lena Carter clutched a battered violin so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The instrument was barely held together with tape and glue. The varnish had long faded. The bridge was slightly cracked, and the strings were a mismatched set collected over months of scavenging through discarded music room bins. Her father stood just beyond the curtain, wearing his janitor's uniform, green coveralls stained with years of floor polish and quiet sacrifice. He watched his daughter with quiet pride, unaware of the snickering behind the curtain or the teacher's dismissive glances. The suggestion had been made as a joke. "Let's give Lena a shot," one of the teachers had said during rehearsal week, a smirk pulling at the edge of her lips. "She's always in the music room anyway. Who knows? Maybe she's learned something while cleaning." The others had laughed. No one expected Lena to perform. Certainly not seriously. She had never been enrolled in music class, never part of the band or orchestra. To them, she was just the janitor's daughter, always in the background, always quiet, always invisible. When her name was called, Lena hesitated. She felt the eyes, the judgment, the curiosity, the ridicule. Her shoes, old canvas sneakers with frayed laces, barely made a sound as she stepped onto the polished wood. She kept her eyes low, blocking out the sea of amused stares. Whispers rippled through the rows. "What's she gonna play? The broom? Does she even know what strings do?" The microphone screeched out. A teacher cleared her throat and said, "Let's see what you've got, Lena." Her tone was dipped in mock encouragement, but laced with something sharper, condescension. Lena lifted her violin. It felt heavier than usual. Maybe it was her nerves, or maybe it was the pressure of every insult she had ever overheard. The late nights practicing in janitor closets. The hundreds of hours spent listening to YouTube recordings on a cracked phone screen. The loneliness of learning in the shadows. Her father believed in her. That had always been enough. She drew the bow across the strings, and the auditorium fell silent. The first note cut through the room like a blade. The chatter stopped. The laughter froze. Teachers who'd been sipping coffee lowered their cups. Students who had their phones out now stared in stunned silence. Lena played, and it wasn't just notes. It was raw emotion. Every draw of the bow told a story of longing, of dignity, of hidden strength. She played with a depth that no one expected, weaving sorrow and beauty into a sound that filled the air like smoke in a cold room. Her spine straightened. Her eyes closed. She no longer cared who laughed. She no longer cared who was watching. She was the music now, each note a shield, a rebellion, a declaration to be. By the time the last note faded, the air felt different. Dense, charged, silence. Then, one person clapped out, a slow, hesitant clap from the back of the room. Then another, then more. Within seconds, the auditorium erupted in applause. Lena stood there, stunned. She hadn't moved. The violin was still pressed against her chin, but her breath came in short bursts. Her heart beat so fast she felt like she might faint. She had expected to be humiliated. Instead, this, from the wings, her father stared at her, eyes glossy, mop still in hand. His lips trembled with something unspoken. Pride. Miss Langley, the music director who had once dismissed Lena with a half glance, stepped forward, hand on her chest, visibly shaken. "Where did you learn to play like that?" she asked, voice thick with awe. Lena hesitated. "I taught myself." Miss Langley blinked. "That's not possible. I just practiced. A lot. I borrowed music sheets from the trash. I listened to my dad's old records. I learned." Another teacher, Mr. Carlson, stepped closer. "You've never had lessons?" "Not even once." Lena shook her head. "No. Just hours in the old art room. At night." Langley stared at her like she was something mythic. "You need to audition for Juilliard," she whispered, Gasps spread through the audience. Lena's breath caught in her throat. Juilliard. The name had lived only in dreams. It was a world reserved for people who had tutors, $1,000 instruments, and parents who wore tailored suits, not janitor coveralls. I can't, she said. Langley frowned. Why not? Lena looked toward her father. We can't afford it. Auditions, lessons, traveling. That's not for people like us. Langley took a step forward. That world is for anyone with talent. And you, her voice cracked slightly. You have more than I've ever heard. Before Lena could answer, a deep voice called from the back of the auditorium. I'll sponsor her. Heads turned. From the shadows near the exit, a tall man stood and began walking down the aisle. His suit was navy blue, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled. He looked like someone important, and he was Daniel Whitmore, Miss Langley breathed. You're Daniel Whitmore. A name that carried weight. Former symphony concertmaster. Juilliard graduate. Philanthropist. Talent scout. Music legend. I was here for a donor meeting, he said. I was about to leave when I heard someone tuning a violin backstage. I stayed. Then she started playing, and I couldn't walk out. He reached the stage. She's the most raw, natural talent I've heard in years. If the audition fees are the issue, I'll cover them. Fully. The auditorium was in stunned silence. Lena's father stepped forward, uncertain. Sir, that's too much. We can't accept. It's not charity, Whitmore said. It's an investment. One I'm honored to make. Lena felt her knees wobble. She had no words. Say yes, Whitmore said simply. She looked at her father. He gave her a nod, eyes bright with pride. If this is what you want, Lena, go for it. Lena swallowed hard. What if I'm not good enough? She whispered. You don't have to be perfect, Whitmore said. You just have to begin. That moment changed everything. Whitmore didn't just offer to pay for the audition. He arranged a tour of the Whitmore Conservatory, a private institution that fed directly into Juilliard. Within hours, Lena found herself in the back seat of a black sedan with her violin on her lap and her father beside her, silent but beaming. The building was magnificent. Gold-lettered signs, mahogany doors, portraits of great composers on the walls. This is where you belong, Whitmore told her. Inside, he brought her to the grand concert hall and handed her a piece of sheet music. Play this. She looked at the notes, complicated, unfamiliar. She took a deep breath and played. This time, it wasn't just emotion. It was precision, power, grace. Whitmore smiled. I knew it, he whispered. You're not just talented. You're unforgettable. The conservatory's director, Eleanor Finch, entered midway through the performance. By the time Lena lowered her bow, Finch was already smiling. We'd like to offer you a full scholarship, she said. Room, board, instruction, everything. Lena stared. It wasn't possible. But what about my dad? She asked, eyes darting. He'll be okay, her father said softly. I raised you to chase your dreams. Go. Lena nodded, fighting tears. Yes, she said. She moved into the dorms a week later. The halls echoed with violins, cellos, pianos, students with private coaches and perfect pitch. Lena felt like a fraud, but she reminded herself she had earned this. Her first instructor, Professor Callahan, was cold and exacting. You have fire, he said after her first class. But your technique is a mess. We'll fix that. And so began the hardest months of her life. Her fingers bled. Her back ached. Some nights she cried. But she didn't quit. She remembered who she was playing for. And she got better. Fast point one day, Callahan didn't critique her. He simply nodded. Then came the showcase announcement. A performance before industry professionals. The winner would receive a summer apprenticeship with the New York Philharmonic. Lena hesitated. I've only just arrived, she told Whitmore. And you're already ready, he replied. Her father said the same. You've never backed down before. So she signed up. On the night of the showcase, as she stepped on stage, she saw someone in the audience that made her chest tighten. Mr. Carlson, the teacher who had once laughed at her. But this time, she wasn't there to prove anything. She was there to play. She lifted her violin, and played like her life had always led to this. The auditorium fell silent, then exploded with applause. Lena Carter had arrived, and she was never going back.